a Q&A panel there. We'll be taking questions at the end of the webinar, but please, we encourage you to ask questions. This is about you after all. And if you'd like to tweet about and talk with each other about the webinar during the webinar, you can use the hashtag capital C, capital S webinar, CS webinar. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at pphilp on Twitter. We are recording today's webinar, and we will be sending it out to all the participants tomorrow. So if you have any trouble getting that or hearing it or seeing it, please just let me know. Great, let's kick off. So today we're going to be talking about building an early warning system for customer success, and some of the key goals of an early warning system, some of the key elements of an early warning system, and maybe some of the things that you haven't thought about when thinking about your early warning system yet. And we'll start with some topical news. So everyone knows that over the last few days, the Carolinas were hit by a very large hurricane, Hurricane Francis. And as you can see here from space, it was a very large hurricane. And we all had advanced knowledge of it. And because there's a very sophisticated oh, oops, hold on. I'm just going to make an interactive correction here. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. Hurricane Florence. I guess Francis will be next year. Sorry about that. And we all knew that it was coming days ahead, and people in the path of the hurricane had a pretty good idea of what to do as the hurricane got closer. So it's a great example of an early warning system. So I thought I'd go into the elements of the hurricane early warning system that we saw on display during Florence. Okay, so I'm hoping that FEMA doesn't use this system. If these bottles break, run like hell. The specific instruction and the indicator is pretty solid, but it might be a little too late. So what doesn't this system have that the FEMA and the National Weather Service has? So the first is it's timely. So we first started getting notified about a potential hurricane probably a week before the hurricane hit. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for time to do something about what's about to happen. And the beer bottle alert system probably isn't going to be timely. Specific. So this isn't going to tell you, it's going to tell you that it's windy, but it's not going to tell you specifically how big or how strong or what the characteristics of the hurricane are going to be. Clear. So if you saw this on CNN or Fox or MSNBC, would you know what to do about this? And response. So run like hell not a bad suggestion, except where you're going to go, which direction you're going to go. You're going to go towards the ocean, you're going to go towards the river, you're going to go up a hill, you're going to go into your basement. So the response isn't particularly clear or effective. So those are questions that you might want to ask in designing an early warning system for your customer success organization. Is it timely? Is it specific? Does it really tell me what's going on? Is it clear? And does it tell me what to do? Does it lead to action? So those are the goals of an early warning system. You want timely action. You want to be able to get away from the problem as early as possible. And so, you know, the governor and the mayors and the anchors on the news start jumping up and down and telling people to get out of town, you know, 3 or 4 days before the storm hits, so that there's time to get everybody out of town. And with Florence, there came a time when they said, don't leave. It's more dangerous to leave. So you want timely action. You want to be able to be proactive. That's the point of an early warning system. You want to be doing something that helps you remedy the situation. So you want to get in a week's worth of food, a week's worth of water. You want to board up your windows. You want to put a security system up, like looters will be shot. You want to protect yourself. You definitely want to avoid churn. And the earlier the warning and the more proactive you can be, the more effective you're going to be at avoiding churn. You want to encourage teamwork, and you know, so that everybody's working towards the same goal with this, taking the right actions. Okay, so hold on, I'm being corrected again. Oh, my microphone is making a lot of noise. Let me see if I can adjust it. I'll do the best that I can, not move around. It scrapes up against my face. It makes that scratching noise. Good. Thank you for that. Thanks for the early warning on my my microphone noise. If that happens again, please just let me know. Okay, so let's talk about how to build an early warning system that meets those goals. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is define clear signals. This is probably one of the elements of designing an early warning system that is the most difficult to get correct. And you want to be able to tell the signal from the noise, and you want to you know, have as few signals coming from your customer as you need to get the information that you need to act upon. And this is definitely something we've seen over a few hundred customers here at Amity, that in the early days of implementing and rolling out Amity, that they define, you know, they can define a lot of different signals, and it can be confusing to the CSMs if they don't know what the different signals mean to them. Then you want to identify specific risks. So, you know, this is a chart that shows you the different risks of different types of hurricanes. You know, so a category 1 hurricane can definitely be a problem. It can be a nuisance, but you're just going to get some flying debris and maybe not a lot of life-threatening action. Category 2 can start causing some structural damages and maybe some local flooding. By the time you're up to Category 3, you're getting devastating flooding, and in Category 4 and Category 5, you're really getting a catastrophic result. And so you're going to take a different set of actions for the first case than you are for the fourth and fifth case. So you really want to identify what the risks are. Ultimately, maybe the biggest risk is churn, but there are other risks that you might encounter before a customer churns. They may not be as severe, but you want to identify them as clearly as you can. You want to communicate clearly and effectively what those risks are and what the actions required are, what the signal means. I'll confess that this particular image is from Hurricane Irma, not Hurricane Florence. The governor of Florida giving a news conference to guide the state of Florida during a hurricane. Okay, I'm getting more feedback on the audio interference. I'll reset things. I apologize for that. I'm not entirely sure what the cause is. Okay, so these are the, so you want to put together a playbook. So let me get rid of that. You want to have a standard playbook so you know how to deal with the risks. Let me move this bar. And so you might have a basic playbook for lower level risk and so first aid kit and cell phones and cash and food. And if it's going to be a bigger storm and you're going to be out longer, changes of clothing, matches, fire extinguisher, books and games for the children. So just having the early warning signal isn't enough. You need to have a playbook on how to manage that early warning signal, what to do. You need procedures to make sure that the playbooks are being followed and that the playbooks, you need feedback so you know that the playbooks are being effective. Okay, so the elements of an early warning system are identifying the risk, knowing what the risks are with your customer base, what's an adoption risk, what's a customer value risk, what's a personnel turnover risk, what's an implementation risk, an onboarding risk. Then you need a monitoring system that's going to give you the signals that that tell you that risk is happening. and then you need to define those signals, and then you need to have a strategy to respond to those signals. So what we see at Amity missing most often is really understanding in depth what the risks are. And so what ends up happening in that case is you can have a number of different signals that identify the same risk, and you can have important risks that don't have a clear signal to identify that that risk is happening. So building up a knowledge base of the risks that you face with your customers, and that may vary over the size of the customer, the industry of the customer, the maturity of the customer, whether the customer has growth potential or not. Those are all things that you may want to take into consideration. But that's the foundation, really identifying the risks, and then the signals that are going to tell you that that risk is happening, how you're going to monitor those signals, and what are you going to do when those signals happen. We always strongly advise to start small and iterate. Start with 2 or 3 of the easily identifiable major risks that you're going to face with your customer base, and implement that, measure how well that's working, which signal is going off the most often, which signal is not going off, which signal is being followed up on, which signal isn't being followed up on, and then improve the signals and add more signals to manage more risks. This is definitely a key point. You want to define your health scores by life cycle stage. So if you're running a trial-based business model, the risks that you have in the land stage and the trial stage are definitely going to be different than in the expand or the renewal stage. So this is a big factor in considering how to design your signals, and the risks you face during the adoption phase, which is probably the longest phase in this diagram, are probably going to be some of the most important and feed into the others, but they're not going to be identical to the risk and expansion in renewal. So identifying the actions you're going to take when a particular signal goes off at a particular level, so when this signal goes off, what's the challenge it's telling you that this customer is facing? How are you going to impact that challenge? So for example, if you're having a signal that says after 4 months the adoption is low, is it a training challenge? Is it a value challenge? What can cause the adoption to be low at that stage? Is it an implementation challenge? And how are you going to know that risk has gone off? Okay. And so to define your signals, so the signals tell you which risks are happening. There's a few different sources of the signal. So business outcome is one important source. So business outcome is the outcome that the customer is looking to get by in their relationship with you. And you might have a few different measures. Outcome 1 is greater than level Y by a certain date. Outcome 2 is up 10% month over month, or another outcome is over a particular goal. Adoption is another good source of identifying signals. Logins greater than a certain number. So if you've sold 20 licenses to an account and they have 5 users who have logged in or 15 users who have logged in, they both might be signals, but different strength of signals. Key features usage are going up month over month. It's certainly something that we look for at Amity. We like to see our users using more and more of the key features every month. Delivery and operations. So did your implementation happen on time? Did your onboarding happen on time? Feedback, NPS, customer sat, are they a net promoter? Are they a net detractor? And things in the relationship, like an executive left, or your champion left, or your operations person left. These are all great sources of signal. And the types of things you want to look for are changes in trend. So is adoption below what it's been for the last 3 months on average, or an absolute level? Is it below an acceptable level, or is it above an acceptable level? Or, of course, comparing it to a goal. Okay. When you're defining your signals, it's important to give your CSMs, especially if you have a relatively high-touch model, the ability to override the signal. They have CSMs with a good relationship with the customer know that, yes, our executive sponsor left, but he delegated our project to the number 2 person, and I've talked to that number 2 person, so this is actually okay. And you want to combine those signals into actionable health scores. So we don't want to say that outcomes are half of the health score, usage or adoption is 30% of the health score, and relationship risks are 20% of the health score. And so you definitely want to see the individual signals as well as a weighted roll-up of those signals. Another key element is this is key information. These insights really help the product team. They can really help the sales and marketing team, and they can certainly be very valuable to your CFO for risk adjusting the cash flow, and to your CEO to see which type of customers are being successful and which type of customers aren't being successful. It's also a chance to demonstrate your value as a customer success organization. The more the rest of the company knows how you're managing customer health and what the customer health scores mean, the more confidence they will have in the value that customer success is offering. Okay, and then once you have your health score and your signals and your goals in one place, you'll want to roll that up into a command center that lets you see your signals, track your goals, track your progress, schedule your actions, share the information that you're getting. And obviously that's the plug for Amity. That's the business Amity is in. And so Amity is Amity, we are your customer command center for managing all of those risks, all of those actions, all of the signals, and giving everybody visibility into that. Okay, so I'm going to take a few questions now. What about tornadoes? Yeah, sudden unexpected risks happen, and you know, you just don't have the opportunity to get advance notice for those. I assume that's your question. You can still get, you know, a little bit of notice. You know, the customer is suddenly downloading all of their data. That might be a tornado. You get a short period of notice before that. But yeah, there are sudden catastrophic risks that that happen. So what would a playbook look like for software? So a playbook would be a series of steps that you know, assess the signal, assess the risk, talk to the customer about it. So make sure that you understand what the situation is, put a plan in place to address the situation, communicate to everybody that you need to communicate with about this risk. So for example, if this is a tier 1 customer, an enterprise customer, and this is a large risk, you may want to escalate that to your VP of customer success or services, just to make sure that they know that this risk has happened. So you know, those are the types of actions that you want to understand the situation, put a plan, communicate, implement the plan, and then measure the result. Okay, I just want to note that we're at 1:30. I'll stay on as long as anybody has questions. Any more questions today? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, thanks everybody for coming on. We will be sending this out tomorrow, and if you have any questions when you get the material, just drop me an email at paul@Amity or on Twitter, and if you're interested in seeing how Amity can help you build an early warning system, please just go on our website, sign up for a demo, or drop me an email. We'd be happy to find out more about your business and take you through the Amity platform. Thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.